What's up, Duckers? One to get started. This goes out to everybody watching and all of the audio listeners. Just letting y'all know, thank you for being here. Thank you for making our first video come out really well. And not only that, actually helping us get views and everything. We really appreciate it. Today's episode, Judgment Day 2000. So I'm about to jump in on Zoom with Too Hard, Too Fast himself, George, and Lathan. So again, thank you, and we'll see you Duckers on the other side.
See if you guys are afraid to admit it. But I am afraid to admit that I am a wrestling fan. In public. Is that bad?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Woo!
Womp womp.
Here we go, guys. It is our June episode of a Ducking Wrestling podcast where we are reviewing Judgment Day 2000, which I'm assuming at this point George has already watched, so he knows what the, spoiler was last time. But before we get into that, on my right, left, whatever, I got Mr. Lathan Hall back with us this week, rocking the NWO shirt. And then down here, over on this side, Mr. Too Hard, Too Fast himself, Mr. George, going at it. I am that DOGGADCDEFG. I don't know. I had something better planned, but I didn't. Yeah, whatever. Guys, how's it going?
We'll work on your intro a little bit more.
It's episode 2. Give me a break.
For Father's Day, I'm going to get you hooked on phonics. The world needs more of that.
George, how's it going, man?
Pretty chill, man. I tried to wear a wrestling shirt today, but turns out I only have 2 of them. I feel like I've already worn them all, even though this is only the second episode. I need to get more shirts.
Yeah, so the first episode came out. We recorded about a month ago, came out about 2 weeks ago and everything. And stuff online has been pretty good, so I'm feeling good about it. What'd y'all think?
Man, it was, looking back at it, was a pretty good blast to enjoy. From what I watched so far, it's been kind of topsy-turvy on my end back over here, but I enjoyed watching what I watched, and I look forward to making plenty more podcasts. A little bit more refined and with a fresher look eventually, but it was a good start.
Yeah.
I feel like I said plenty of things that got cut out, and you guys made me regret. But you know what? Hopefully, better this time.
Well, like I said, we are discussing Judgment Day 2000. Today, it took place May 21st of 2000, so just over 23 years ago, 23 years and almost a month. I remember this pay-per-view. This was one that we actually had pay-per-view money for. So I do remember watching this. And I because it's been so long and it's not one you go back and watch all the time, I really forgot how good this pay-per-view was. There were a lot of good matches, a lot of iconic moments that to this day are still used on highlight reels and stuff. So
going back, well, first of all, watching it was my first time watching it in its entirety, because I remember watching it for the first time only for the Iron Man match. Back when I watched it the first time, and it was, I want to say, a year after the fact, just because I didn't have a chance to watch it on video and I still didn't have pay-per-view money. I remember watching the scrambled version of it, but I wanted to watch the actual match in its entirety, which was good. The biggest part was remembering all the talent that was out there. When WWE was first getting its stride in the Monday Night Wars and stuff, after they had been beaten for so long, and remember how much more like not more talent, but the better way that they use their talents more consistently. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, it was just like I said, a good card across the board. So and then of course the ending was how everybody always enjoys remembering it for what it's worth.
Yep. Yep. George, what'd you think, man?
I don't remember watching it because I don't think I did watch it. I think this was one of those where my parents were like, nope, we're not buying it. You can go to your friend's house, and then my friends either probably said, we're not getting it either. My parents said no. And then there was nowhere else to watch it. So I think it was one of those that because the whole time I was like telling everybody that, I was telling my sons like, let me listen. I don't remember what's going on. So so I don't think I remember because I never watched it. And so I was like intrigued the whole way. Maybe I'm a little more bummed out with most of the matches. I'm not wasn't a fan of a lot of what happened. But there was a few, obviously the Iron Man match. I kind of missed the Iron Man matches, and I miss special guest referees, like legit like wild card special guest referees.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so before we get into the actual pay-per-view, we're going to take a little break, a little commercial break, and we'll be right back with it.
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
And we are back from the commercial break. So thank you to our sponsor. Whatever. Anyway, all right. So first thing that came up was the intro package. Man, I really loved the intro package with all of the statistics and everything for the Iron Man match, like how many times you're gonna blink, how many times you think about sex, and then it goes into the match and it's like they're gonna take more hits than an NFL quarterback will all season. They're gonna lose 7 pounds. They're gonna to me, it felt like hey, this is a legit they're throwing down. They're throwing down, and this is something that's special.
My thought on the opening package was like, what am I watching? Are we cussing on this?
We're cussing. We're
all right. So yeah, the thing was like
we popped that cherry last week or last.
All right,
week.
so I was like, the fuck are we watching? And then my son, we get started. My son gives me the fuck are we watching look. And then it gets to that. Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. It's like I thought we were watch WWE, and then it gets to that sixth part. I go, I bet I can beat 21 times.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. When I was rewatching it today, I was like, 21 times. That's it. Yeah. Well, so after the intro package goes through, the first thing they go to is the corporate DX, McMahon Helmsley. I hated it.
It was the regime at this point.
I hated McMahon Helmsley era shit. I mean, I guess in reality they did their job because they were heels, and I hated them. Hate.
And listen, hate is a strong word, but it's accurate for this. But it made sense, but it was annoying how they haven't made sense because it was at this point it was the McMahon era that started off, and then somehow the betrayal then turns around to them being chummy again. And I'm like, there wasn't even enough storyline to carry out the breakup and the family angst before they had to get back together because neither one of them played a really good face. Both of them were really good heels. And Triple H is a really good heel in himself because he sucks as a face. And so he just kind of motherfucked it all together. Because you gotta have DX to do merchandise sales too. So
Yeah.
motherfuck this, yeah. And so it was just a whole bunch of everything.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm curious to hear George's perspective of it because he didn't watch the pay-per-view.
I remembered. It took me a little bit to remember like why they were friends or why they were even together. Yeah. So, but at first I was like confused, and it didn't make sense to me.
Now the whole stuff with Briscoe to me kind of saved, and we'll get to that here in a bit. The whole Briscoe stuff kind of to me saved all of that. But and Lathan, you may know this. I don't remember. Where was Billy Gunn? Was he hurt?
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was out with a knee injury because I was sitting there looking, and I was like, I feel like there's an odd man out. There's a lot more X-Pac being referenced in the usual because he's usually the one in the back, just kind of being ratty and stuff. But yeah, I think he was out on.
That's most of his lines.
Yeah. Yeah, and then randomly Tori got more actual camera time out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, they're clearly making up for somebody being missing. But I didn't know where Billy. I didn't know where he was, but I think I remember he was actually out on injury this time.
Okay, yeah,
or rehab, one of the two.
I thought, I don't think he ever had to go to rehab, but I don't remember. You may know, and I just don't remember. But yeah, I couldn't remember where Billy Gunn was, but yeah, it was the odd man out, and I think that was another reason I hated the corporate stuff was because I just really didn't like Tori.
You shut your dirty mouth right now.
Yeah, not a fan. But so the next thing we see is it shows Shawn Michaels walking, and those damn shorts, man. Yikes.
As a 36-year-old man, I kind of like them.
I was gonna say if you could wear them, you would.
Yeah, if I would wear them on camera, I would.
Just going to check the mail at the.
If I would feel confident wearing them on camera, I would.
You know, ironically, with you saying that, George, I think he was actually about 36 at this time, wearing those shorts. So if he can do it, I'm sure you can eventually.
Funny thing, you should mention them.
I'm glad that you find those favorable because
all the confidence you have.
As a 38-year-old man as of last week, yeah, I'm past my my bike short days have gone. So rest easy, bike short days, because they will not be coming back. So the first match that we get is going to be Kurt Angle, Edge, and Christian versus Too Cool with Rikishi. Whenever we started the podcast or this episode, I talked about how there's a lot of stuff that are still used on highlight reels to this day. Edge, Christian, and Kurt Angle doing the hillbilly stuff, the bluegrass. I mean, to this day on Edge's stuff, they still show that zoom in of him with the teeth, the hat, and like
the hat, yeah,
cross eyes, and like that. I had forgotten that happened here. So it was that was one of those iconic things that came out of this, was just how funny they were. So Edge and Christian, Angle, hilarious. Christian coming out and almost coming off like a face, like a baby face, until he's like Louisville, and then the crowd turned on him like that. And it was perfect. Like the timing on the jokes and the comedy was amazing and hilarious.
Well, he is Captain Charisma, so he like that's one thing that Chris has always been good at. If for anything else, he definitely put a mic in his hand, so definitely give you entertainment. Across the board, like Edge, Christian, and Kurt in general, whenever they have screen time, are always going to give you like the best entertainment possible. Like you want to hate them, their heels, you're going to boo them, but you're going to laugh at the same time, and that's always something I've appreciated. Like they get it. They're part of the entertain. They're part of the entertaining. and it was a good opener. Like if you're going to open the show, I mean, they're definitely between the six of them, they actually gave you probably one of the best openers in a long time.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely. George, what were your thoughts, man?
I liked it. I liked the opening. I thought Kurt Angle was hilarious with the oversized bucket hat or whatever. Uh, but
Looking like one
you
of
know,
the country bears from Disney World. The next, of course, they're out, they do their thing. And then the team they're facing, you've got Too Cool with Rikishi. Holy shit, Too Cool was over. Like,
Very over, yeah.
I forgot how over they were. And I mean, like this whole
I don't forget, as soon as that music came out,
yeah,
I was back in it.
Dude, it was crazy. Like the crowd and like Rikishi coming out, which kind of brings me to my next point. So Rikishi had been with WWE for a long time in various forms. So we had Head Shrinker Fatu, we had the Make a Difference gimmick. I don't know if y'all remember that. They had the Sultan, Rikishi Fatu first, and then he went to the heel. Did Too Cool save Rikishi's career?
I think they equally both saved each other's career. So they weren't like, because
That's fair.
Too Cool was just a mid card jobber type of upstart tag team, if I remember it at this time. Like because they were still wearing like their leopard print tights, and Charity King always kind of put them over because it's his dad. So or his son. So
what? I don't. What? No.
oh yeah, it's the worst kept secret ever. But like, and then like they switched the gimmick to be. It was like a fuckery of the Make a Difference with like a more nuanced version of it melted together. And then Rikishi just kind of like came in and he was the ethnic support system that they needed to be validated. And so, it was two white dudes with attitude and one fat ass Samoan. Literally. And it did help that probably in their benefit that Rikishi had so much experience on the back end on repackaging himself and making sure that they validated like the actual tag team that they became, because they went on a whole couple of different championships, and then every time, like even to this day, if I hear Too Cool come on, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna sit down and watch, because somebody is gonna get Rikishi's ass in their face, and Scotty Too High is gonna do the worm.
Yes.
So
I don't remember. I think I was a fan of both from what I remember. Like I was a fan of both, and then they just both made each other even cooler. As a kid wise, Now as an adult, I kind of think like, dang, like, would I still like them right now if they were like a thing right now? Like, would I still be down for it?
And
I think I would still like the ass in the face kind of like turnbuckle thing. That's still hilarious. I mean, I wouldn't want to get it, but to watch, like, I wouldn't like it.
Are you sure?
I mean, I'd rather try everything once, but I don't know if I want a sniffer of that.
Oh, there's no way for that to not be gnarly.
But I always thought that was hilarious, that move.
I wrote this down, and I watched this pay-per-view last Friday, and I was up drinking, and the first note I had was Grandmaster Sexy with all that gold looks dumb. He looks like Mr. Peach Tea.
Oh man.
I read that back the next day, and I was like, that's funny. Drunk me's kind of funny. So I will, as good, as entertaining as I thought the match was, the whole thing was a fucking spot fest. I mean, the whole thing. Like, it was all about hitting your mark at each moment. And that kind of got on my nerves after a little bit, because you could tell, like, the match itself ran too long. to just be a spot fest. Grandmaster Sexy losing his pants. I mean, if you watch Rikishi when that happens, I mean, it actually broke Rikishi. Like, he had to turn around and was like this, which was funny.
I think I missed it.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's
I missed that.
dancing and his pants go down, and then Scotty 2 Hotty's running around going like this.
Oh, okay. I missed it. I
Yeah.
saw that part. I was like, what happened?
The whole match was entertaining, and I'll give them credit for that. It was a spot fest, which I don't like, but it was they managed to keep it entertaining with kind of the comedy aspect of it.
But what I think is, like, at the end when they won, it almost seemed like Kurt Angle was supposed to break up the pin, and maybe it was supposed to go on a little bit longer,
Yeah.
because everybody seemed like, what the hell just happened? That's the vibe I got from it. Like, he was supposed to break up the pin. Maybe it went on a little bit longer, and maybe they still won at the end, but it just seemed like everybody was kind of lost.
Yeah, it did kind of end abruptly. Lathan, what you think?
There's a couple of different parts. Like, it's it's ongoing in the other part of the pay-per-view too, where like there are a couple of missed spots where something should have happened, and then you're kind of just like either waiting for your spot to happen, or you just miss your cue altogether, you miss your mark. As one of the only few takeaways from the totality of the pay-per-view, while in caning, they did have times where you clearly missed marks, and it didn't move as smooth as you kind of wanted it to for the moment. But that one's one small one I noticed. I think what it was that Kurt Angle was supposed to have somebody kind of anchor him back down, and somebody else missed that mark more specifically, because it's kind of one of those last minute quick run-ins, but like you're supposed to get anchored down to where you're not actually able to get into touch. Kurt had to kind of like reassure that the match didn't go on longer. Because these matches, like I looked it up on Wikipedia, the longest match excluding the Iron Man match is actually the Intercontinental title match. Everything else is on average about 8 to 7 minutes is what you got.
The man, how over was the Worm? Good God, like that crowd lost their minds when Scotty 2 Hotty was doing the Worm. I forgot, and that
All he had to do was this.
Yeah, do the
Yeah,
and
you already know what's coming.
Holy shit, that crowd lost their mind. And now, so the next question I'm going to pose, which to finish up this match. So
Pose.
I think this could be a whole episode on its own, and we may get to that. So I want just a 10-second yes or no and why to answer this. So with all the discussion about the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, the greatest of all time, should Kurt Angle be in that conversation? Me personally, I say absolutely, for how quick he came in, what he accomplished, being able to be comedy, serious, and even take losses and still get stronger for them. To me, he's a yes as a conversation for the greatest of all time.
I don't know if I would say greatest of all time, but one of the best of all time.
So maybe not the GOAT, but the BOAT.
What's the boat? What does that mean?
Best
What I said? Okay. Yeah, for sure. For sure, one of the best, man. Like, he's got comedic timing. He's got mic skills. I'm a mic drama fan. I like the mic drama, and he's got wrestling skills. Like, obviously he's an Olympic champion, but so I like what he did, and I was always a fan. Like, whenever he needed to be booed, he was booed. Whenever he needed to be cheered, he was cheered, and I was there for the ride.
Lathan.
No, definitely. I would definitely say he is a top caliber athlete. Like, realistically, when you say, I'll put it to you like this: if you're going to put Shawn Michaels in the art, one of the best entertainers or greatest entertainers of all time, you would equally have to, by default, put Kurt Angle. Like, there's not a match where Kurt Angle does not like give you his all and give you the best version of himself, even when he was all perked out in TNA. Like, literally, some of the best matches I watched in TNA, or the only reason I turned on TNA, was to watch Kurt Angle and see what he would do. He has, like we said, great comedic timing, awesome mic skills, very charismatic as a human being and an individual. But he can turn it on as a bad guy or a good guy and give you 110% every night, without question. Like whenever I think about Kurt Angle, some of his greater accomplishments, I think about like WrestleMania versus Eddie Guerrero for the WWE title, or his match with Shawn Michaels at I think it was WrestleMania 23.
5? No. Yeah, 23 maybe. Yeah, we'll have to research that. We'll get the research team on that.
Yeah, with and so, like, he has wonderful Brock Lesnar versus Kurt, two collegiate heavyweight champions going after each other. Olympic gold medalist and undefeated NCAA heavyweight champion. Literally excluding the 5-star shooting star press that Brock Lesnar missed. That was a classic that I definitely stayed in my seat to watch the whole time. There was no potty break for that one for sure. But like, yeah, when Kurt Angle gets on TV, he's gonna give you at least something to remember him by. So so definitely I would put him in the debate for one of the, like, I put him in like the top 10 of greatest entertainers of all time.
All right. So with the ratings for this match, I gave it a 2.5. It was, to me, I had a lot of fun watching it. The intro and everything was good, iconic, even would say. The match was good. It was entertaining. It was fun. So I gave it a 2.5.
I gave it a 2.75. Great pacing. Like you said, it was a spot fest, but like at the time, you didn't have a bunch of spot fests like that, matches like that. It was entertaining. Everybody basically hit all their marks, and you left there wanting or enjoying it. Like I said, great opening match for a pay-per-view. Especially at that time, we have so much time to put on TV. So definitely was a good way to start the show.
2.61, I will go.
A bunch of dickholes just trying to go above mine.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it.
If this was Price is Right, I would win because I had the dollar, whatever. I don't care.
Because you didn't go over.
Yeah, Jordan just raised the equivalent to saying $1 on the bidding.
Respectable.
Just because it was entertaining, and all three of those guys are like top wrestlers.
I did remember one thing when watching this, and I completely forgot about this point in his life, in his career. Teddy Long was a referee, and I completely forgot about that. I was waiting for him to come and say, everybody gets into a tag team match with the Undertaker player, and it didn't happen. He was just there being a referee and a little bit heavier on his feet. You're still in his chubbier, younger person stage of life.
I love Teddy Long. He just cracked me up because he couldn't.
Also, I said all three of those. I meant 6, like all 6 of them.
Well, I mean, I knew you meant Edge, Christian, and
for sure, yeah.
Bert.
But I mean, so I was a big fan as a kid. I was a big fan of Rikishi and Too Cool and all that.
All right. So next up, we have the Shawn Michaels interview, and the only note I have from this is, to this day, I still use the quote Shawn Michaels said. I still use it where he's like, well, Lord knows if it's on the internet, it must be true. Like, and you think about how much the internet was in kind of its infancy in 2000, that still rings true today on that statement.
Like, HBK still being relevant after all these years for once.
Right? His hair may have gone away, but his relevance hasn't.
Oh man, I remember seeing this promo, and I thought about this because realistically, we didn't get to see an HBK versus Rock type of match at all ever. And we are like for given purposeful reasons on the Rock's end. But I thought about it for about the better part of like 2 or 3 minutes. Like how good would HBK versus the Rock feud be on like literally on paper, setting a storyline and everything like that. And I thought it could be quite entertaining because they have two very different styles of wrestling, but it can turn into something quite entertaining if you actually thought about putting them in a ring together. Or it can end up very volatile and off the tracks like Hulk Hogan versus HBK. I don't know, but yeah, it can go either really good or really bad. There's no in betweens with this one.
And I'm remembering back to the Hogan Michaels match, which I'm sure will be something that comes up at some point. The overselling of Shawn Michaels in that match on purpose. Could you imagine Shawn Michaels versus The Rock, both of them just overselling? How just it would have been hilarious, but it would have been such a good match.
Or it could have turned out like Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania, where it was just a bunch of just slapstick wrestling that only got better because of the crowd. And if you actually watched it on mute, it would have been the shittiest match ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, there's no in between. You either get really great or you get really shit.
Yeah.
I would just think about like the back and forth mic drama that would happen. Like I said, I'm a fan of that.
Sure.
So the stuff that they could come up with between each other, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
And the things they could get away with saying, especially in that time, and then in that day and age where, censors were a lot more lenient on what you could say on the air. Like I said, it was the Attitude Era. And like, you get away with a lot more.
Now, I want to get into the next match because
That's what that was one thing that my wife did ask when she's like passed by. She goes, "Do you think this was I'm saved Shawn Michaels already, or was this still like I'm down for
He was
anything Shawn Michaels
transitioning.
still?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is pill popping Shawn Michaels. he had a Pez dispenser in his pants. The next match actually became one of my favorite matches for this pay-per-view. Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn. I think it was for the European Championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the European Championship with these three guys kind of took a back seat to the match. This match was phenomenal. Malenko and Saturn, when compared to Eddie, the charisma is not even comparable. I mean, watching Dean Malenko interact with Perry Saturn was like watching paint talk to itself. It was rough, but the interaction with Eddie and China made the beginning of the match really good. But having Malenko, Saturn, and Eddie together in that first little part where they were talking, showing how charismatic Eddie Guerrero was, I mean, it surpassed the other two.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But he's always been like that. He's always been the charismatic one. You remember, even like in WCW, it's like if you put a mic on any of the luchadors or any of the cruiserweights, it was Chris Jericho or Eddie Guerrero. Dean Malenko maybe to say a couple of things, but he had just as much personality as my wife's potted plants up here. After a while, like I remember some of the promos or some of the gimmicks he tried to give in WWE, and like I'm like, just make him a wrestling machine because that's all he's known for. Like that's his best quality. Just put him out there, put him in a ring. He's going to give you a cruiserweight classic of sorts.
Yeah,
that's why he was a light heavyweight champion at the time. And that title looks like a fucking toy on his shoulder. Like,
but it
ridiculous.
had a black strap, so it was fine.
It had a black strap, so it made it more prestigious. So it's fair.
George, what
did you think about it, George?
I was always a Saturn fan because I like the rings of Saturn. Putting it on and
yeah,
like doing that. I don't know. I've always liked that. I used to play as him in whatever video game, I could with them, but I just remember that and the head turn.
I kind of forgot about that on what was it? NWO, WCW, Revenge. I forgot
On
about
N64.
the move, and he would do the.
Yeah, so I like that about him, but yeah, I don't remember him really working the mic too much.
Yeah, but I will say, man, they were three really talented guys. Like, you got into the match, and wow. Like, for Dean Malenko and Saturn's kind of lack of charisma, their in-ring skills and putting these three
Made up for it 100%.
was unmatched. And my next note was actually, hey, somebody in the crowd had an Undertaker sign.
Yeah. Oh, dude, actually, I forgot. This is one of my first notes of the whole watching the pay-per-view. The poster of Judgment Day. Go back and look at it. It's Kane on the poster, just half his face. No Kane in sight.
Wow.
And then, yeah, but they tease you with the eye. If you look closely, it has the Undertaker symbol in it. But I'm like, where the fuck is Kane? And why is he relevant to this poster if he's not on the pay-per-view?
It just shows it shows the mask. You can just see a little teardrop.
Yeah.
I know that. I know where that's from.
Oh man, I'm like, dude, this is out of place all too well. Anyways, sorry, that was me segueing off of that. Back to the match. But it's actually 100% right, Art. The match made up for itself. Lack of charisma made up for the chemistry that they did have in the match together. Like, it reminded me of like an older WCW or like ECW style match, but just given the time it needed on a bigger stage in WWE or WWF at the time. Like, to remind people, like, hey, these are some talented wrestlers, and this is what you can do with them when you give them the proper push the right way. Because they were just coming off of what the Radicals are coming in, and they were part of the whole DX Helmsley regime and things like that. So it was kind of cool to start to see them break off and actually show their worth and their talent, and they were worth the money to bring them in for sure. And they all went on to decently have, well, except for Perry Saturn, decently good careers in the WWE as well, for what it was worth. Like, Dean Malenko's still a producer, if I'm correct. But it's Perry Saturn.
I think he's in AEW.
Oh no. I mean, he did pretty decent for most of his life. You know, we all make irrational decisions when enough money put in front of us. So yeah, but I did notice that I put this in my notes too, was China, for what she turned out to attractively be. This is probably her most attractive I found her, as she started to feminize herself after being with Triple H for so long. Like, eventually she got over the top. Well, I mean, granted, her own psychological issues aside, she was actually probably her most feminine and being in the storyline with Eddie Guerrero and them playing off of each other. I found it to be interesting. Like, I was like, okay, this is China being very attractive. Then she became kind of more of a beastly She-Hulk of sorts. And I'm like, okay, now it's over the top and things like that. But like, yeah, she was a sight for the eyes at this particular point.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that. She seemed, and that's something I have too, is with everything going on with the McMahon Helmsley stuff, I kind of feel like Eddie Guerrero kind of saved Chyna's career in this moment, making her relevant, making her front and center with him.
What do you think?
I always liked Chyna. I always thought she was attractive no matter what, even when she was like super crazy strong and just worked with that. I liked it.
Nice. Get some insight on Boy George over here.
Overall, I walked away from this match. I gave it 3.5 stars. Just for this, like I said, you know me, I'm always a sucker for technical wrestling, anyways, and chain wrestling. I'm old school like that, but they put it together especially with the high flying movements that Eddie was doing with it. Like it was a good balance of everything, and so you left entertained and wanting more. Honestly, the match could have went on another 2 to 3 minutes if they wanted it to, just to let it breathe a little bit more. But I get they were under time constraints at the same time too. So for the entirety of the package, it was awesome.
I think that this is a solid, to me, was a solid 4-star match. It had almost a real feel fight to it, like a real fight feel to it, that it seemed like the three of those guys were really going at it with each other, that the ending was a shady kind of heel shit ending, but it made sense and it was actually pretty creative with the flower.
Mine will go 2.8. Just because I feel like there was a little bit like lackluster with some things. I don't know what it was. I know there was a few missed spots, missed moves where they were like the Hurricanrana did not even come from Eddie, did not even come off very well, and Malenko flew across the ring. I just didn't like that. But I think I was just confused the whole time because I don't remember. I didn't watch it from when I was a kid, so I didn't know like the championship, the European Championship belt, whatever, who had it, whatever.
He ran out of the ring too fast, and so they couldn't give him the belt. They gave it to him after, but he walked in the European champion and walked out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that was my confusion. Fine, I'll give it a 3.
3-star from George.
But I thought that was like the whole flower thing. That was a good like little trickery thing.
Yeah.
Seeing small seeds of the mischievous Eddie being Eddie that we came to love for the lie, cheating, and stealing part later on. It was awesome.
Yep. Next match that we have up, and we call it a match, was the Hardcore Championship, the stuff with Briscoe, and like leading up to like everything they were doing with Gerald Briscoe in this pay-per-view, I thought was really fun and funny kind of filler. Normally the stuff like this, whether it's the hardcore title or the 24/7 title, kind of bore me. It gets kind of where I roll my eyes a lot. This was funny. Like watching Briscoe win the championship, and even the announcers are whispering, Gerald Briscoe's the champion. Yeah. Like it was hilarious. It was creative. I loved it.
It was interesting to say the least. Especially the hardcore title at the time, they crashed and acted the whole 24/7 aspect of it. It left you with enough entertainment as filler between matches to actually still give a damn about some of the product. And then, especially with it being one of the Stooges having the title at the time, like Gerald Briscoe's comedy gold between him and Pat Patterson, I absolutely loved mostly everything they did. I know these are some tough son of bitches, but in their older days, they were hilarious as hell, and always make sure they shined on TV when they got a chance. Like they were awesome, absolutely awesome, and always a joy to watch.
And the fact they always came out to Real American, it was funny.
Absolutely, and it made them relevant. Like it was one of those cool things that made you relevant. Like it made them relevant historically because it made you want to go back and look at them. And it was cool to hear that Gerald Briscoe was part of the Briscoe Brothers in like his own territory at one time. And then I always want to go back and look at some of Pat Patterson Gold stuff because historically they are key pieces that make wrestling as good as it is historically in their own different regards and ways. Even though you can't really watch most matches from Puerto Rico, allegedly, it's okay. Pat Patterson's still entertaining to me. But
Pat Patterson versus Sergeant Slaughter in the strap match is a match any wrestling fan should go out of their way to find and watch.
Oh, absolutely, hands down. And so but like it's with this 24/7 title with the hardcore match title, it was just it was awesome. Yeah, it was fun to watch, and like they put a little spin on it to where it stayed relevant and entertaining in its luster that it was supposed to have. for what it was worth. Like, it wasn't anything over the top, but it definitely kept you entertained.
I said it either in our last episode or in the episode we did on Too Hard Too Fast podcast. um, but
we don't check facts.
I said it on one of them where I said that I was a big fan of the hardcore title and the way it looked, and like all broken up and taped up and crappy. And I like the intent of it, because at the when we were kids, at that moment, anything could happen, anything would happen, and I like that kind of idea, to where it was like, well, we know there's some script to it, but it's a little wild, so still anything could happen, and I like that. Like Briscoe, I just remember Briscoe and Patterson always being the funny guys in their older age.
Go out of your way on YouTube, find Patterson versus Slaughter in a strap match. I think it was in Madison Square Garden. It's from like the early 80s. It's a great match. Speaking of great matches, next up we have the Big Show versus Shane McMahon in a no holds barred match. Why why was
oh fuck.
Why can't... There's so many whys in this match. The first one is, why could the Big Show not manage to talk without spitting on why did he have such a
oh my god.
Like that man just salivated and just spit on everything.
Yeah, it's not only that, but it was, why am I watching this match? That's the one thing. I was like, why is this match relevant? Why is this try to make sense? And like, it's just this was, if there was a match you could have done without on this show, this was it.
Well, so I disagree with that, because they were promoting the WWF rap album. The Big Show's music was fire.
Yeah, as in like fiery crotch, because it's itchy and it's painful. And
no, I liked it.
Yeah, no, that was horrible. My blackness will not allow this to be okay. It was horrible. Absolutely. That was hot garbage. And and you made reference to the rap album. I completely forgot about it until like I heard the DX Run DMC variation. I was like, oh yeah, they haven't played this album all night, but you're hearing it through the entrances. I was like, okay, that makes Big Show's entrance more relevant because of the time. But fuck that album. Fuck his entrance song.
Nope. I'm gonna go on eBay and try to find that album again, because I loved it.
Oh man, listen, just go to Sam Goody. I'm sure they have a clearance section with it still in it.
I don't think there's a Sam. I think Sam Goody itself is in the clearance section.
You think Spotify has it somewhere?
It's definitely not on Apple Music. I know that for a fact.
For a great reason. Yeah, go to YouTube Music. I'm sure it's on there.
So let me ask you all this. Shane McMahon's legacy is that
if you call him the greatest of all time, I'm gonna punch you through his phone.
Shane McMahon is the GOAT at having a legacy of just getting the shit kicked out of him his entire career.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
That's all he's ever done. Like
putting himself in through some pain.
Yeah, he's had these blockbuster matches, and all it is him getting the living shit kicked out of himself.
What you're visually seeing is him vying for his dad's acceptance. Like, please love me, Dad. Watch me go through this plate glass window of King of the Ring. Please love me, Father. Watch me jump off this Hell in a Cell.
That's one we're gonna have to do. But real
That'd
quick,
be good, Dad.
Real quick, guys, can we hold up the drinks? Do a quick toast and an RIP in this match to Big Boss Man and Test.
Hey,
rest in peace. first thing, the bump that Trish Stratus took was freaking insane.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give her credit for that. That was crazy that she agreed to that.
Yeah. And at that time, it was like she was one, like, to her credit, her and Lita were probably the only two divas that would actually take a legitimate bump in the ring at that time. And it was really refreshing to see that, because everybody's all dolled up and it's all tits and ass. Get it, TNA. Bazinga. Yeah, but like they still like, hey, I'm beauty and I'm like, it was good to see that they could still get in the ring and throw down with the dudes if they wanted to. So it was cool. It was crazy to see. Agreed. But it was also refreshing to actually see a woman put herself in a physical situation like that and can handle it. So yeah, but it was a lot of bodies. It was busy. It was a really busy match.
Yeah.
In all the wrong ways. Like, it shouldn't take. Like, I get at the point when he came in, they wanted to make Big Show stronger and look like unbeatable because he's a giant. But at the same time, like, half of the people you're wrestling are about 2 inches shorter than you, or at least in this match, between Tess, Buell Buchanan, Big Boss Man. I think literally the shortest person in this match was Shane McMahon, and he's still 6 foot. Like,
Well,
realistically, they can all beat your ass.
with that, there was this one part in the match where it was so stupid. So since you're saying like how they were trying to make the Big Show look unbeatable, where he gets part of the entrance thing, and Big Show goes, oh, like he has to like make it look like it's super heavy, and then here comes Seth later and just goes.
Like, that's superstructure. I've got that down where I'm like the fake superstructure. Then I started, when they started doing that, it had me paying more attention to how well somebody could struggle with it trying to pick it up rather than the actual match, because then I'm watching them try to pretend like this is a huge like piece of metal when it obviously it's like they're dropping it and it's not even making a sound.
Yeah. Like clearly with my big boy glasses on, in retrospect, clearly part of the gimmick stage where they just put it there. Like, it's not, I mean, with Big Show removing it, the structure's no more or less stable than it was before it was put there. Like, it's just like the center block. Like, young me was like, damn, he got hit. And the older me's like, really? The center block's gonna break that easily across his head and disintegrates? Okay. This is 1.5 stars.
The speaker falling, I thought was cool. Like the sparks and everything. Okay, they did a good job with that. When he broke that cinder block and it hits the concrete and there is no sound, I'm watching this and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are we like, we're really doing this with the cinder block? Because it like crumbles.
It passed for good TV back then. I don't know what we were thinking.
Hey, back then it was just the suspense of disbelief,
Yeah.
The bar was lower.
The only good thing that came out of this match was once, the trainers and everybody came in to help the Big Show, we got to view one of the most glorious mullets of all time on the trainer. The guy who's helping him. Holy shit. That thing is, I mean, for 2000, for this guy to be rocking the full on like curls and oh man, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
He was gonna party after the show was over with.
Yeah.
He was probably partying already with Shawn Michaels.
So I even hate to do this, and I'm gonna put a rule that you can't give a 0 star. So what's your rating for this match?
1.5 stars. I already said it. I'm sticking to it.
Wow, that's generous.
1.5. It was too entertaining. As a kid, I would have loved it. It had all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, I gave it a 0.32 star.
Jesus. You All these random ass numbers.
God, it was just bad. It was not, to me, it wasn't even entertaining. It was pure filler. Like, they could have give me Gerald Briscoe running around for that same amount of time, getting into shenanigans and shit, rather than having to be eye-raped like that.
But it's a McMahon-centered show, so you have to put all the family members on TV in some way, shape, or form tonight, Art.
Well,
So,
give me Stephanie just walking around, and I'm much more happy than what I had to watch there. So the next match we have up is Chris Benoit versus Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship. So all three of us are dads. This was kind of a hard match for me to watch, trying to separate Chris Benoit, the performer, from Chris Benoit, the
guy. The guy.
Yeah. I mean,
I watched it pretty easily, and I threw on some Mark Kelly too.
No, I ran over and punched my son.
Yeah.
I watching the match back and like knowing everything that we know now, every time Chris Benoit did a headbutt, I was like,
You mean that was what got you over? My cringe when it was the crossface. I was like, there was one point and there was a sequence at the end where Chris Benoit put on the arm, the crossface, and then like Chris Jericho was reaching for the rope, and then literally dragged him into the middle of the ring, gave him a couple of hits to the back of the head, then reapplied it and just cranked back on it. I was like,
Foreshadowing.
Does not age well.
No, or the end where like Chris Jericho is passed out, but it's no longer here, it's over here, and Chris is like he's trying to move it and he's trying to like signal that he's like being choked, and all you see him is sink it a little deeper. I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
God. Oh man.
Now that being said, it's still a 4-star match. Listen, it's Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. When have they not had a bad match?
Man, there was a moment where Benoit picks him up, and I'm like, holy shit, he's gonna hit him with the tombstone, and then he hit them with that old school shoulder breaker. And I jumped out of my chair like, yes, I haven't seen that move in forever. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, no, they were definitely I literally the easiest two matches to enjoy out of this pay-per-view, and this is including the Iron Man match. It's definitely the Chris Jericho match and then the Triple Threat match. Like those 5 WCW cruiserweights / like rejects knew how to put on an entertaining match when they got to be able to be creative and be able to flow with the way they wanted to work the match. The absolute greatest chemistry I've seen between like a couple wrestlers, and for all intents and purposes, like I went into this not thinking about Chris Benoit the murderer. I went into it thinking about the entertainer, and so like I went in there. I was like, okay, before that, I took myself mentally back to that time. Like I have to make sure that I can enjoy it for what the match was, and he puts on a show. Like Chris Benoit, like everybody says, when he gets between those ropes, he is one of the most entertaining spectacles you can put together. When he has the right dance partner, and Chris Jericho happened to be that guy most of the time. So yeah, so it was a good match. I hated that it ended so abruptly, even though I got the most time on the card. It could have had easily could have had another 2 to 4 minutes to let it breathe a little bit longer. But we definitely got a good entertaining match out of it.
Yeah. There was a moment in there where they showed Val Venus and
Hardcore Holly.
Yeah, and Hardcore Holly. Val Venus kind of outkicked his coverage on the gimmick. Like he held on to that gimmick and kind of evolved it pretty well. So I'll give him credit for that. My question at the end of the match. So Benoit wins, gets the championship, walks out, right? Jericho's still in the ring. They play his music.
Chris Jericho's music?
Yeah, they play Chris Jericho's music while he's still in the ring.
I thought for a second there that they played it because I was assuming that he had won by DQ because Chris wouldn't let up on the crossface, but at the same time they announced Chris Benoit as the winner, and so it didn't make any sense. I think it was just a bad technical coincidence in the back. Like, hey,
I don't
cue up
think
Chris's
so, no.
music, and they're like, "What was what?"
Benoit got his music played and he left. Jericho was still in the ring and they just started playing his music for him to leave to. I don't think it was a mistake. I just don't understand why they did it.
I'll get into a couple of mistakes in the next match that made my nose bleed a little bit, but clearly this wasn't. There was a couple. This was clearly one of those nights where some things just went awry. But you still enjoyed it for the total package it was.
So my last question, and this will be one that I'm going to give each of us about 10 seconds to answer and justify. Is there any way to separate Chris Benoit's legacy from his actions? Me personally, I think no, because one led to the other. So what he did in the ring supposedly caused the issues that led to what he did. And all of us as husbands and fathers, to me, I don't think there's a way to separate those two because they're intertwined.
No, I can't. There's pockets where I've gone back and forth on this and like maturing, becoming a father and everything. Originally, I was on the page of like, yeah, I can divorce the two wholeheartedly, and I'd be one of those that would grandstand on my soapbox and be like, Chris Benoit deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but at the same time, now giving it more thought, giving it more context and understanding more of the evidence that came out about the situation and how it all played out. Like, no, like it's they're like especially after watching like Dark Side of the Ring, kind of giving it more of its full detail and context to the public, right? Like it makes you think about it in a different light. Even being the biggest Chris Benoit fan, I can't. I kind of have to, in some way, shape, or form, to enjoy it the way I was like I meant to. It was enjoyed at the time. Historically, looking back at it, it's a challenge, but you muster through with it. But at the same time, like no, like three people died in that house that weekend. Only one person had a choice out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Granted the situation, but at the same time, there's a lot of plotting and like different ways that he went about the whole weekend. Even with him not being in his right mind, they could have played out differently. So no, I can't.
No, yeah, I can't either. Even when my son asks, like, who is he? What, that I have to like explain who he is as a wrestler, but then also explain who he is as a person. And looking back, I was looking back at the match at the very end. Like, I was like, I'm trying to like kind of decipher, like, was it a spot or was it like a thing where like it was planned that he wasn't gonna let go of Jericho? Like one of the refs looks like completely like pissed off at him, like kind of tells him like, what the fuck, like it's like, hey man, like you're really hurting him, like he was giving you the signal or whatever, plenty of time,
he just
and
kind
you
of
still
wrenched on it a little bit more.
yeah, like not even just kept holding on, you pulled it back a little
He
bit
was
more.
retching on that.
Yeah. So it's like, what is going on here, kind of thing. So it just seems like it got a little real there.
Yeah. All right. So with ending of that match, George, what do you give it on rating?
A 5 because Jericho could have died.
Is that the criteria now?
If you could have, you might have would have.
Oh, I'm so hesitant to give out the 5-star, but Lathan, go ahead. What'd you give it?
I already said mine. Mine was definitely 4.5 stars. So, like I said, and honestly, like I battled with giving a 4 versus a 4.5 in it, just because, like I said, the only downside I saw in the match, more specifically, was that it didn't have enough time. Like they wanted to rush to get this Iron Man match put on, and it almost felt like the mid card or the undercard in general was kind of overbooked by accident, and they didn't realize it until the day of, and they couldn't do anything to really turn it around. If you take the Shane McMahon and Big Show match out of it, and take all the heel faction part of that out of it, not even just those 2 matches, but the rest of the undercard more time to have fun with their matches, it would have been more entertaining. You could have put and then had a bigger Gerald Briscoe hardcore filler match somewhere in between all of that, or him in the back trying to get chased down from it. Like it could have made it move a little bit better, a little bit smoother, but it was what it was. We got a really good entertaining match out of them, so definitely always like watching it. Definitely go back again to watch it. So
Yeah. So I gave it a 4.86.
what's with these prime numbers, you motherfuckers?
Because George set the precedent for this in the last one, because he's like, well, originally I gave it a 4.26, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.78. I'm gonna be pinche on giving out that 5-star. But no, I gave it a 4.86 because it was one of the best matches I've seen. It told a story, it gave feeling, and it had a good ending that made sense and built both guys to go forward. So the next thing that we have up is a creepy as fuck teaser that at the time we didn't know what it was for, but now we do know what it was for. Yeah, that's the only thing I have is creepy period as period fuck period.
It was all it was. Listen, it served its purpose. It left me confused, and it was the same vignette they kept on playing leading up to it. Like, and at this point, you didn't know who was for, what was for, and the outcome of who was for left me more confused than anything. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit clearly. And this was a good and this is like it's funny because 2000 through probably 2004 they had some really awesome vignettes to set up entrances and debuts, but they, like, honestly I think they kind of missed the mark with this one. But you have to go out there and you have to experiment, you have to try things to know if it's going to work or not. So I give them credit for having the balls to put it on, but production wise, I'm like, who was this for, and why did we end up getting what we got? We could have had something a little bit different, better.
All right, and with that, we are going to get into the main event. But before we do that, quick commercial break.
You forgot a match, Art.
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
And
all right, so we're going to get into match number 5.
Yes, we are getting into the match that I completely skipped over, why did I skip over this one and not Big Show? I'm kind of mad at myself for that. But we got...
Yeah, this one was more entertaining.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Yeah, no joke. So we got D-Generation X, which consists of the Road Dogg, X-Pac with Tori, versus the Dudley Boyz in a tag team table match. I'm going to say it right off the bat. Fuck you, Lathan. I love the DX DMC entrance music.
Fair enough. I will volley that one to you. You're allowed to have that one. Just as long as we can agree the Big Show sucks.
Yeah. And so we're 2 years past the stuff we were talking about it on the WrestleMania 14 pay-per-view with the Road Dogg's hair. And now he's got this weird like swirl thing with the Road Dogg Tony, and it looks like a shit emoji just flattened on his head.
That is a shit emoji.
That is funny, yeah.
Oh man, that thing was horrible. Like as the hair grew longer, they found ways to make it more shittier. But like, okay, I have to always preface what I'm going to say with it was 2000. It was a different time. Like it was like there was a lot of fuckery going on back then. Looking back on it, like he thought it was cool, but I'm sure he would look back and be like, no, that was not it on my head. That was shit on my head.
Yeah. No, the Road Dogg Tony was awful.
Oh no, that was horrible. Yeah, but this match was confusing to start off. Like, did anybody else notice they started off as a tag team match? I forgot that this was a table match, even when they announced it, because they started off corner to corner, tagging each other in. And then, like, it became like Bubba had a hot tag, and all of a sudden we're like, oh shit, we're actually in the middle of a tag team table match, which is a tornado style match at any time. Yeah. And so like that was kind of a weird presentation of it to start off, and I was kind of like lost for a second.
Yeah, it was really confusing. And the other thing that partway through the match had me completely focused was that a scar on D-Von's head that I've just never noticed before.
Probably it's Steve. Oh no, that's his part. He used to always have that one weird part that goes all the way through the back of his head. Don't ask me, I don't know. It's a black thing.
It went all the way down to like his neck though. Like I've got a part as well over here, but it doesn't run all the way to like my
it was just
spine.
Like I remember it was one of those because I remember seeing it originally in one of his ECW promos when they was still in ECW, but he's always had some kind of weirdness going on with his hair. But like at that time, it was the part that went all the way back. I think that's what it was. If I had to look at it again, I mean, it was 2000. It was what it was. So
it was weird. This whole match.
Did somebody go through the table before the Dudleys went through the table?
The fucking ref.
Okay, so
tossed him and he almost broke his neck.
Because I got distracted. I did get distracted throughout the match, but the way the match ended, to me, I was like, "There's a lot of broken tables. Who went through a table? I thought it was a tables match. So as soon as you go through a table, it's over." And then even the commentators were like, "Well, he wasn't the only one that went through the table or something like that."
So for context, George, it was supposed to be with the table tag team match, each corresponding person in that tag team has to go through it. So that's why I started with D-Von going through the table first, and it was but they weren't clear to explain it, and so I was just left up to my own assumptions. But I was like, "Oh, this match is over with. That ended quickly." But then I realized it's just D-Von having a seizure again. We still got to put Bubba Ray through the table, also.
I wanted to go back to the hip toss of the ref into the table where he like breaks the table with his own neck, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, geez, that's awful. Like it was really bad. But the ending of the match where X-Pac hits the X Factor on through the table, Like it almost looked kind of botched, but it was still fun to watch. They had the right camera angle on it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a fun match. But yeah, talking about Gerald Briscoe, he comes in, fucks around, gets the shit kicked out of him. There's 3 refs in the ring. The hardcore title is supposed to be like anybody can come and get it, but nobody does.
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't even think about it like that.
I
Like,
was
they could've
yeah.
yeah.
I was watching it as a first timer at 36 years old. I was like, this would be a perfect time for somebody to come in. Like that was a missed opportunity for sure. Unless they had something better planned, missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought the match was fun. It was good. It was a Dudley Boy match. They were trying to get it Tory. So I'm going to give the question with 10 seconds each. Lathan, will X-Pac be the first
No.
3-time WWE Hall of
No.
Famer?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't even know he was in the Hall of Fame already.
NWO.
He has not gone in by himself yet.
He probably won't go in by himself.
What?
I wouldn't see him by himself.
What?
No.
He's always the
No.
background guy.
He plays to his fairness, though. I would say if he was to go in, it would be on the strength of him coming back and having his second life with WWF after he got fired by WCW.
Right. Oh,
But
absolutely.
like even then, yeah, but like he was kind of like the catalyst, or not the catalyst, but the counterbalance to the NWO and what they were showing on WCW at the time, and him being a second in command to Triple H, or like his sidekick, right?
Right.
Like where like the outsiders had Hulk Hogan or vice versa, Triple H had X-Pac in his corner, and he's been like historically he's always been kind of like one of those litmus tests for a lot of wrestlers to see if they're going to be talented at becoming the next level superstars. Like if you can go in the ring with X-Pac, then you have some kind of credentials of talent that is athletic that gets you to that next level eventually. But because there's nothing that he did career-wise outside of help make sure that other wrestlers got over to a certain extent that makes him really stick out like that.
Hillbilly Jim is a Hall of Famer. Does Hillbilly Jim or X-Pac deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as an individual?
Oh, X-Pac wholeheartedly, but Hillbilly Jim's put in a different era before they actually like made a big deal about the Hall of Fame. And realistically, he probably will go in.
He deserves to be in there by himself with what he did prior to going. And that's the thing, is with the current WWE system for Hall of Fame, you don't have to ever have come to the WWE. I mean, you had the great Muda, who just went in to the Hall of Fame this year, never set foot in the WWE, had an impactful career. Can you not say that X-Pac, Sean Waltman, has had one of the best pro wrestling careers, even to this point at age 50? He's still wrestling and actually doing it at a good level.
He's doing it, but I think honestly, in retrospect, like he's probably doing it at his best level now because he's sober and has a better mind for the business that he did back then. But realistically, when comparing the Great Muta to Sean Waltman, who's had more of an influential impact on other generations of wrestlers?
Sean Waltman.
Internationally?
No, Sean Waltman opened the door for American wrestling for people under 200 pounds. When he laid out Razor Ramon and became the 1, 2, 3 Kid, I think in American pro wrestling, looking at WWE with the Hall of Fame, Sean Waltman, X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 Kid, 6 is a surefire Hall of Famer, and he will be the first 3-time Hall of Famer. Name one other person who will be a 3-time Hall of Famer before him.
I mean, it's always left up to the people that decide these things. So I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But listen, if it happens, I'm all for it because he was always one of those I enjoyed watching. Again, cruiserweight division in WCW, definitely brought more prominence to it. Like you gave it more of a relativeness to it when he had the cruiserweight title, and to watch him go in the ring was fun. It was just that he was. To me, the thing that probably takes him out of it is he's always surrounded by so many main eventer big guys that he just kind of, in the turn of phrase, gets dwarfed in the conversation of like everybody else in the faction to a certain extent. Like, it's just one of those situations where he plays a good support character.
All right. So with that, let's give our ratings for the DX
3 stars.
Dudley Boyz match. Okay, Lathan going with the 3-star. All right, George, what you
No,
got?
I'll do one better. 3.12 stars.
See, that makes more sense. Good job. I'm glad you came to your senses on that. George, what you got?
1.23, kid. No, I'm just kidding. I would go, 3.42, I would say. If we're getting into those details. I enjoyed it, a tables match. Who doesn't like that? All the characters I liked. Tori Wilson, the only one I didn't like up there was Briscoe, because I was like, what's going on here? And missed opportunity.
I'm going to give it a 3.78 stars because it was good. It was entertaining. It did what it needed to. I thought the Briscoe stuff was just kind of filler bullshit, and why nobody came out to pin him. Why didn't one of the refs? There's 3 refs. You could have had a moment where all 3 of them are fighting over pinning him. It just a funny moment to end the match. Like,
that would have been perfect.
And you missed out on it. So,
and what I did not like was Briscoe doing a half-ass, X chop and socket chop. It's like I didn't know what he was doing. I was like, what are you doing?
You're doing it like this.
Yeah, like
put some tiger balm on his nuts so he had some extra energy and vigor for a second, and clearly it rubbed off. I do like that the ending still had the table spot for Tori at the end of it. Too cool in 3D around this time, right? Even if they lost the match or they got their asses handed to them in some way, shape, or form, they still got their spot in. And so at the end of it, and still walked away. And I was like, how does this happen? But it was fun. It still left you entertained.
Yeah. All right, guys. Here we go. We are on to the main event. This is Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus The Rock in an Iron Man match for the WWF Championship.
Trash, 0.25. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Let's go.
I'm going to go ahead and kick him out of the stuff.
It's your bedtime, George.
I had never thought about it at the time, but looking back, this was probably Rock and Triple H, and I think it was kind of inadvertent, was one of the best built rivalries of all time. You think about 2 years prior to this match, The Rock and Triple H were having their interactions. They were already, you look at SummerSlam 98, the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. We're 2 years in the making into this match, longer than 2 years. And it kept going after this, which I think it almost seems inadvertent how good the buildup was, but the buildup was awesome for these two.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's you can see their career, like they defined each other's careers for a while there, especially moving up into the next level. Like they both were the workhorses with the Intercontinental title, then they became main event championship caliber athletes at the same time. And it was interesting at the time for context that like Stone Cold, like your Pius Pony, he's out, and you literally have two other pieces of the machine you can put right in there and still carry on more entertaining storylines and more entertaining rivalries between the main event scene and without missing a beat. Like, sure, you missed Stone Cold and you eventually want him to come back, or you missed the Undertaker and eventually he's going to come back. But until then, you got some really great action between a Kurt Angle versus Triple H or a Rock versus Triple H over many different pay-per-views and always having different stipulations attached to them to still give you an entertaining match. And they always brought their A game. That was one thing that I look back and I appreciate more when you hear about wrestlers talking about like they're giving themselves the business, like they're trying to put themselves over, and always at this time, especially when you hear about them, they specifically will say that like one person tried to politic themselves into this role, or they want to highlight themselves in this way, or you always hear about the trope of Hulk Hogan. He's always like, that won't work for me, brother, and always trying to put himself over everybody. They were very generous on giving back to each other because they knew in the bigger scheme of things, it gave back to the business in an entertainment way. And it made both of them look even better on paper. They're very selfless, especially when they talk about each other. And I always thought that was cool that they can give us more entertainment because they knew the bigger picture was like, we're here to entertain you and not just work for ourselves.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I put a note in here that said Stone Cold being gone kind of let a lot of other people shine. Kind of letting the younger people shine, the newer people coming in. I think it really overall helped the business with Austin being gone because it allowed that.
Was Stone Cold gone because he was injured?
Yeah.
Oh man.
One thing I did notice going throughout this whole pay-per-view, one of my biggest complaints for WrestleMania 14, which was two years and a couple of months earlier, was how bad Jerry Lawler's heel commentary was. This pay-per-view he was still doing the heel commentary, but it was much more subtle. It was much more entertaining, particularly in this match. JR and the King, their commentary was on point.
Absolutely. But at that point too, I think production wise, I think Vince McMahon kind of helped wrangle him in to make sure he had more charisma in the way he portrayed his heel character. Like he has more story beats going along with it now, getting into his groove. So it did make for more entertaining commentary. And it was, JR and King on the mic are just legendary. Like the closest I get to thinking about them is Gorilla and Bobby Heenan having commentary together. It's just super entertaining, and you could just literally put them two together and just have a good time every time. Just the chemistry they have off of each other. It's just phenomenal. Yeah. Oh, and watching a young Michael Cole in this backstage commentary, like that was with the highlights in the hair, and I was like, what is
frosted
going on?
Tips.
Yeah.
I bet George had frosted tips at this point.
I used to want to get them. My mom wouldn't let me.
Oh man. All right, so before you take a deep dive on this, George, in totality, watching this for the first time, how entertained were you with this match?
With this one,
Yeah.
80% of it, I was fully entertained. Like,
So I guess let me ask you, was there any time during this match where you're like kind of like, what's going on? What's the context behind how they got to this point? Or was
honestly,
it just like,
no. Only because like I like The Rock, I like Triple H, I like Shawn Michaels. So all three in a ring was just kind of like, I don't care for a story. I just want to see them. I just want to see them work. I knew there was gonna be some kind of dumb way to make like the. I don't. For some reason, I already knew that there was gonna be some kind of like, it's gonna end up in a tie or get close to a tie. So
Don't spoil the finish. We're not there yet.
well, no, but it was in 2000. If you don't know the finish,
Right.
but that was my thought process. I think if I was watching it as a kid, I wouldn't think of the tie. I don't think that would be in my head. But as now watching it for the first time as an older person, I would be like, that's all I thought about was like, there's gonna be a tie, or they're gonna work themselves into a tie, some kind of thing. So
Well,
that's all I was looking for.
And as wrestling fans in that time, when we think back to the last Iron Man match that we saw, it did end in a tie. At WrestleMania 12, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart,
and then went into overtime.
Yeah, it went into overtime. So,
but also, sorry, just I like thinking back, or right now, like I'm watching, like it's one of the weirdest feelings you can feel, because this is the first time I'm watching this match. Truly,
I bet I can name a weirder feeling.
her, but at the same time, I'm watching it for the first time. But I'm watching these guys that I've known for like, so I think that alone makes it, for me, it's gonna be like very high ranking for those two feelings. It's a very enjoyable match, and I'm watching it for the first time, so I really truly don't know what's gonna happen. But I'm also looking for like, okay, where does the fuckery come? And then but also it's nostalgia.
Yeah,
for sure. No, it was entertaining, to say the least. Looking back on it, there's a lot of fucking ends up happening in this match. I won't spoil it, but it starts good. Like it has I like the character that Triple H is as a heel, like because it's kind of like a heel with some kind of honor, right? Like he starts off the match like, "Hey, I'm going to do this by myself." He's not going to do this by himself, but at least he makes it look like he is. Right. And so they he plays up like, "Hey, I got this. I don't need your help." But then the one thing I did was anticipating the whole time is, how is HBK going to find a way to involve himself in the match? And for what it's worth, he didn't the whole time.
Right. And they played that up the whole pay-per-view. Like, what is he going to do? He's talking to The Rock. The Rock's kind of being a dick to him. Triple H and him are talking, but the match never comes up. On Sunday Night Heat, him and Stephanie are talking. They play it up all night. Like, what is Shawn going to do? And the only thing he did in this match was play it straight down the middle, or have the greatest fucking mannerisms ever when it came to the moves and everything. His facial features and like him like doing that and stuff was awesome. He did a phenomenal job as the guest referee in the match. Yeah, and so we get the first pinfall, and the first pinfall is a random rock bottom for the pin, which surprised the shit out of me, because I'm expecting it to be like Shawn and Bret with nothing up until the very end. Rock hit that first pinfall just out of nowhere. Boom. Pin, and he's up 1-0. It's like, what the shit? Like, what the shit just happened?
Yeah.
With that pin. And it instantly turned the match into something completely different to me.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And that was what, going into it, I think that was the anticipation I thought about when looking at this back. Was like, okay, they had room to understand what they could do in a match from WrestleMania 12. Like WrestleMania 12 was just having to be like this gauntlet match between two wrestlers that are super high in endurance. They can always go, go, go. These guys, in retrospect, are slightly bigger, and their endurance isn't as their endurance is being tested more, but they're stronger hitters, they're stronger strikers.
Yeah.
which the way that the match ended up playing out, it worked to their benefit. Like, okay, we're going to obviously have times where we're going to hit our finisher move, and then we're going to get stunned for the 1, 2, 3 count. Like, they allowed you to still work your way up into a tie, but in the way that you didn't think about them getting a tie in the first place. And they're going to hit each other with their finishing moves, and they're powerful enough to lay your ass out with them. Triple H is played up as the full heel he's supposed to be. The Rock is the most electrifying badass he possibly could have been at the time. And HBK stayed the fuck out the way, which is okay with me.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, like this match completely, like I said, nostalgia but what I'm watching it right now, so that's why I keep looking this way. Really, the person I'm watching the most, I think, is Shawn Michaels. So I think he really did steal the show with just being a special guest referee.
Keep watching, because there's a moment where I don't know why, but the match all of a sudden becomes no count out. Like,
there was a lot of changes that they just out of nowhere.
Right. So he starts out with doing the counts, and then he just stops later on in the match, which I think he should have kept doing the counts. It wouldn't have caused any kind of difference in it, because each person would have gotten a pinfall. It would have been a double DQ.
Yeah.
And it would have kept the match going and there's a flow to it. And I think it took away from the match by stopping the count out. There was some inconsistency in the match, which
I think in the whole pay-per-view, like we've all been to, like, we've all thrown events together or been part of events where on our end, like the behind the scenes stuff, it's like all fucked up and we're all like there, we're all hungover, we're all like whatever. But the people that are there to see the event, they have no idea. So you're just putting on the show, but you're still having a fun time behind the scenes. So you're
Right.
kind of just like, all right, well, let's do this, and nobody's gonna care. This is the vibe, the whole pay-per-view. To me, it's like, let's put this out there. Let's just go have fun. If we mess up, nobody really knows. Let's just have fun with it.
Yeah,
And I think
but
this is like the whole pay-per-view, but this match as well.
I'll tell you what I fucking noticed the whole time, and it was pissing me off, is how The Rock's elbow pad kept going down to his wrists, and he would just leave them there.
I mean, Triple H.
Pull your elbow pads up, dude. Like,
The Triple H, it was Triple H.
no,
Triple
The
H.
Rock.
Yeah.
The Rock's elbow pads kept going down to his fucking wrists, and it was
Oh,
pissing me off, because I'm like, dude, just pull them up, man. Nobody's gonna care. Just real quick.
I definitely noticed Triple H elbows pads are to his wrist.
Yeah. He always kept picking at them. He picked them every once in a while, but they stayed down. I'm like, dude, just take them off. Just take them the fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Pick
at this
one
point,
side
take
or
them
the
off.
other. Take them off or pull them back up. Like, pick a
Oh my goodness.
pick a lane, dude.
No, seriously.
And there comes a point where there's a really, really sloppy schoolboy pin, but they get the pin, and like I was watching the match and I'm like, holy shit, like that actually, okay, it worked. I think one of the main storylines throughout this whole match is that you get the surprising pins. It's not like a moment where a pin and a victory is coming. You get the random moments where it's like, oh, schoolboy pin, 1, 2, 3. Holy shit, he just got one.
Yeah. But also at that point too, it's like justifiable pins. Like, this makes sense. Like, okay, I just smacked the shit out of The Rock with this chair. I got DQ'd. But guess what? He's still laid out. I think so I'm gonna go ahead and pin him and get the 1, 2, 3 back. And so it's like they were justifiable in the storyline that they were building through the match in itself.
It was great.
The one thing I did that made it weird with that, especially with that pin, was I was like, why did Triple H put his feet on the ropes? And why didn't Shawn Michaels notice that? Because Shawn Michaels with both straight eyes. We're looking straight on at Triple H, and his
Was
legs are
it though?
way the fuck on the top rope. Yeah.
Was it?
And I'm like, for calling a DQ, they're not calling like this easily cheap heelish win or this heel heat pin. And I'm like, but it still worked out. So I mean, that being said, though, did anybody else notice how long this actual match went? Like I saw, I timed it. I was in the middle of timing it, watching it again today. If my math served me correctly, this match went 1 minute and 7 minutes, or 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Wow.
I was every time they were like the camera would pan wide. I was trying to
60 minutes you're supposed to be in there.
Yeah, I was trying to see the clock in the background. You know, it was running along the arena.
Yeah.
So that I was trying to match it with that, but I lost track of it.
I did like that aesthetic. That when they zoomed out and they showed like the scoreboard in the back about the time and the score of who had more pins and stuff. That was a really cool aesthetic from the hard camera side that you don't usually see nowadays on live TV. So I did appreciate that little thing.
Yeah, they had it on a scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. There was moments getting close to the end where there were a lot of sleeper holds. and I understand why, but I think it would have made more sense if somebody had given up a pinfall to a sleeper hold. You know what I mean? Like there were a bunch of sleepers, but nothing came of it. And I get it. They were resting. They were trying to take a moment to rest. But to me, it would have been a lot better. It would have made more sense if somebody had given up a pinfall to a sleeper hold.
No, I mean, like it's looking back at it, that was one of those that like you know what it is now. It's not the same overall super endurance match that the Iron Man for WrestleMania 12 was. Like these two motherfuckers are big and they're tired. And and this is the only way that they can do it, just having rest hold after rest hold. And but like at least it's still built. Like they still made it make sense and sometimes during the match. But I see where you're coming from with saying that like somebody actually got pinned at least once. I know The Rock had one where he lost to a sleeper hold, but like that could have been 2 pins in there if Triple H would have played it right technically. Yeah. You gotta build the momentum back up to get them to the next part of the story that eventually leads to.
And they're trying to get to the next part of the story. And there was one where Shawn obviously had a fast count, which I was like, okay, Mike Tyson, you need to calm down over there. Like, I get you're trying to get to like trying to follow the time, because I think at one point, you know, they're getting concerned with, because they know what's coming up at the end. So they got to get to that point. But yeah, Shawn hit a fast count and I was like,
Yeah, it was they lost. You could tell that there's a point where they lost track of time. Especially towards the end. I mean, everything ran the way it could only run given the situation and the circumstance. Looking back at the end of the match, I was like, if you would have gave this literally 2 more minutes to breathe, like give it to, instead of like McMahon's walking out at 3 minutes, have it go like 5 minutes and let that thing like air out, because like there's parts where like you're looking at the ring, you're seeing all the things going on. X-Pac's over here waiting to hit a spot, like the worst timing ever. And then at the same time, you have a vignette playing way over here. And then the biggest surprise of all comes to the ring. And you can't even give him the full energy that he needs to do everything he needs to do before the timer actually goes off. But like it turned into a production fantasticness that I was certainly marking out for when I first saw it, and marked out again to seeing it again. No pun intended.
So do you think that not having enough time Is that why Shawn Michaels like called it the way he did?
No, for the final. All right, well, hold on.
So the match ended the way the match was supposed to end.
Right.
It's just that anybody that was truly looking at it knows they already ran over time for it. That's why he took away the timer at the end. It wasn't because it went off. It was because they still need to finish concluding the storyline. If they kept it up, everybody would have been knowing what's going on, and this is bullshit.
Right. Which, speaking of bullshit, what the fuck, Peacock? You don't have the rights to American Badass, so the Undertaker comes out to some bullshit on your version of the show?
I did not realize that until you said it just now. You're right.
Yeah, it was. I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm waiting. Like I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes the round, hitting the I'm un-American Bad, and it never hits.
No Kid Rock.
Not even like them dubbing in his newer music, no Limp Bizkit, no nothing. And it immediately killed my hype for him showing up.
Yeah.
Man, fuck Peacock.
Yeah. And it's mama.
Well, let me ask you. So, okay, George, watching this time for the first time, I mean, what were your thoughts with the Undertaker and everything, him coming out?
I didn't expect it. I was like, what the heck is all these little vignettes? So it was a good surprise. Cause I didn't understand like the whole the little girls, those twins. That's the vibe that was the shine. So
The Shining.
but when it's playing them, like when they're all beating up the Rock and they're playing in the back, I was like, okay, that's cool, something cool's gonna come out. And then it's the Undertaker. I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, I thought it was gonna be something else.
Oh,
But then at the same time I was like, okay, it's the Undertaker. It's pretty badass too at the same time. But I was a little let down. I was like, what is it? What is it gonna be? Something new. But again, it was something new that's something old that's new again. Nostalgia.
yeah.
But then like it just became it was awesome, but at the same time we were kind of confused because like this is a whole different look to the Undertaker. Like this is, hey, I don't dye my hair black anymore. I'm actually a ginger and I like riding motorcycles, Undertaker. And it's cool for him because it was just him being a badass on a motorcycle, being more relative to the generational storyline that he should not attain to, but like this is more realistic. Like the Attitude Era was all about realism. Everybody went by first names, like and like their legal names on TV, and so this was kind of his contribution to that same regard, right? Yeah. So, but he was still the Undertaker. He wasn't Mark Callis. Like you're not going or Mark Calloway. He was just a more badass version of me, Mark Callis, in a sense. And so it was cool to see that variation of him where he ended up taking it for like the next 4 to 5 years, right? Like it was still awesome to see the Undertaker be that. But yeah, man, like it ended up the way it ended was the way it's supposed to end, George. But like,
but was it because like they
time
said
to
that
do it.
the time ran out, technically?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels shouldn't have called it a
The
DQ.
time ran out like 7 minutes before Shawn Michaels called it, technically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so there
like
should have been something else. They ended it the way it should have ended it, but technically, if we're going by the rules, it
yeah.
didn't end.
It
Should
ended
have
in a
ended on a
tie.
tie.
Bro, it's pro
Yeah.
wrestling. Come on. But let me ask y'all. So let me ask y'all this in your opinion, watching this. I don't think that the Undertaker was needed. They could have finished the match the way they could have finished the match with Triple H hitting one more pin or whatever. Match is over. all of the Helmsley, McMahon people come in, start beating the shit out of The Rock. Then The Undertaker shows up. I don't think The Undertaker costing The Rock the match did anything for the storyline in general. And I had to go back and look to see, okay, what was the next pay-per-view and what was the involvement of The Undertaker with The Rock. The next pay-per-view was King of the Ring. They did a 6-man tag match. Rock, Kane, and Undertaker versus the McMahon Helmsley faction. It didn't build towards anything. I think The Undertaker coming back could have waited a few more minutes and been after the match. I think it kind of ruined the end of the match.
To a
Yeah,
certain extent, it
probably.
did. But even then, I would say if you're going to if you hold off on bringing back the Undertaker, it probably would have had more build if you brought him back the next night on Raw. Like have some kind of runoff main event, like okay, or a way you could have done it is like, listen, it ended in a tie, like, and then we don't go to we don't go to overtime like we did the day before. So this is now us doing fantasy booking to a certain extent. Let it end on the tie, like the end on the tie. Rock gets beat the fuck down in the ring by the Helmsley McMahon regime. That's how the show is going to end, anyways, right? And then come back out the next night and be like, okay, now we're going to have an official overtime match to settle that. Like to make sure that there is a winner takes all, like final bout, right? And then in the main event, have the same thing play out. Give it time. Like, first of all, let Undertaker have his huge dong. Like, just to let him have a dong.
I'm
Like,
sorry, his huge what?
His dong. I said what I said. Like just pitch black the arena real quick. Have the dong. Have the vignette play, have the dong happen, and then it goes into American Badass, and then bam, we have an Undertaker in the ring already. We don't even have to have him riding on a motorcycle. That's cool, but he can just show up, wreck shop, and then leave. And then now we can have a better build, and we actually have like an even healthier conclusion to this match. We knew that this pay-per-view was only built off of one consensus storyline of it's going to be the Iron Man match. Everything else from the prior to the card was cool. There were small storylines that were going on, but everybody paid to see the Iron Man and see how it was going to end. Like, give me Hellfire and Brimstone to come out real quick. Let the flame burst. Let the ring burst into flames. Kane walk down and be in the Undertaker's role. That would have probably had made more sense, but I didn't get paid to produce the show, so
Hindsight
it was entertaining.
in 2020. George,
Yeah.
George, what you got?
I enjoyed everything until, like I said, The Undertaker coming out. I agree. I have to agree with Lathan. Like, if he would have just, if all the shenanigans would have happened, and then The Rock still lost, and they were beating up The Rock, and then The Undertaker showed up at the very end and just laid everybody out. Perfect ending, because it still gives them the pop of the return. It still gives them to satisfy the match. The way it ended, to me, it seemed like, again, another, let's put this together. Whatever happens. Nobody's gonna know if we messed up or not. To me, it looked like they messed up in the whole timing of it. I think it would have been a lot better or a lot cleaner to finish with however messy it got in the ring, and then just The Undertaker shows up to clean house.
Yeah, I think so to Lathan's point with The Undertaker. So the next night, The Undertaker couldn't show up with his dong. And come out. He couldn't, because they were trying to present him as more of that realistic person. So they had to have him come out on the motorcycle. But you fantasy booking. Let's fantasy book this. We're down to the last 3 minutes. Vince and all of them start coming out, right? So we know there's going to be some shenanigans coming. I want all of them around the ring doing nothing. Nothing. I want them talking. I want Vince directing people, moving them around the ring. Tied match going into it. All of a sudden, X-Pac or Road Dogg, whoever, Rock goes, so Rock, boom, hits the rock bottom on Triple H, sets up the people's elbow, throws the pad. He bounces off one rope, goes to the other. X-Pac is there, boom, hits him with the chair where Shawn doesn't see it. Rock goes down. Both guys are down. We're down to like the last 30 seconds. Both guys are down. Triple H getting up, goes in. Rock, they're throwing fists. They're going back and forth. All of a sudden, Vince is yelling at The Rock. The Rock turns to Vince. Shawn turns to Vince. Boom, low blow Triple H. Boom, pedigree. 1, 2, 3. Finish the match, right? Both guys are laid out. Triple H has won. He's cheated. Chicken shit heel has won. They're laid out. Everybody comes in, starts kicking the shit out of The Rock. All of a sudden, the vignette hits for Undertaker's return. Then he comes down to the ring and cleans house, right? Him costing The Rock the match didn't lead to anything. So to me, doing it after the match makes more sense than doing it during, because it's not leading to anything. It's like when we talked about WrestleMania 14. Mike Tyson coming in and doing the fast count, it didn't lead to anything. There was nothing that they went to after that. So I think Undertaker took away from how good the match was because of the ending, but he needed to be there. So I think that would have been the way that if I was there, I would have booked it that way.
That's a pretty weird way to put it. I'd be more entertained that way. Easily. Like, George, what do you think?
Oh, I said, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I would have preferred Undertaker at the end, very end of everything. Like, like I said, clean house.
Let's give this match our ratings. I'll let Lathan go ahead and what's your rating?
I give it 3.16 stars.
Oh, dang, okay.
All right. George, 2 stars.
I want to go with 3.45.
Okay. I gave it a 4.25 because
I almost said 4.
Oh, I gave it a 4.25. It was a great match. The only thing that took away from it was Undertaker coming in and causing the shenanigans at the end. But that brings us to the end of the pay-per-view. So, guys, what are your ratings for the overall pay-per-view? We're going to start this time with George. What's your rating overall?
I'm gonna go with 2.7.
Okay, why give it a 2.7?
It was entertaining for some of the matches. I'm giving it some points because I'm giving it the fact that I'm watching it for the first time and giving it that nostalgia feeling.
Lathan, I don't mean to interrupt your rating. So there were no women's matches on this card, which I thought was kind of weird for 2000.
How many women did they have on the roster at that time? It was like there's Tori, Stephanie. Was Jackie still there?
I think so. Sable would have still been there in May of 2000.
Well, Stephanie was the women's champion.
No, I don't think she was. Was she?
No, Stephanie was the women's champion because she won it from Lita.
That's right. So Lita would have been there. Trish was there.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Latham, what do you give the show overall?
Overall, I gave it 3.5 stars. Like, it was a good, entertaining, top to bottom card. If I think about it with my entertainment mind, first and foremost, my nostalgic heart, I truly enjoyed it for what it was. And when I think about the combination of my nostalgic heart with my critical thinker hat on, I'm like, this could have been better, but it was still pretty good for the time. And especially for the talent that they had, the talent that they eventually got, and the way that they carried the storylines more productively back then, and more of a continuity. It made it better off that way. So 3.5 stars. It seems formidable in this one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Lathan on that. I'm going to give it a 3.56 stars.
You always got to beat me out by like a little itch.
Just trying to get a little bit. I like George's emojis he's throwing up there. Yeah, I gave it. It was a really entertaining overall show. Outside of the Big Show Shane match, which the only thing I thought was good about it was them dumping the speaker. That was it. That was the only good part there.
The only thing that was good about that match was it finishing, and so you can move on to the next thing that was relevant.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, because you had the triple threat match for the European title. You had Benoit and Jericho for the Intercontinental title. Even the DX table match was good, not really good. So yeah, I think I'm gonna sit with that. But with that being said, guys, we are done with the Judgment Day in 2000. Saw the return of the American Badass. Well, saw the return of the Undertaker, the debut of the American Badass. So with that being said, guys, it is time to spin the wheel. So we are still rolling with what we had before, but changing out Judgment Day 2000. So we have SummerSlam 2002, ECW One Night Stand, Royal Rumble 1998, and taking the place of Judgment Day 2000, we have WCW Nitro from July 6th of 1998.
Oh,
There it is.
We're going to the Georgia Dome.
Monday Night Nitro from 1998.
NWO for live.
Hogan, Goldberg in the Georgia Dome for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. Guys,
New World Order.
always a
Hulk
pleasure.
Hogan, we coming for you, nigga.
I'm keeping that one in. George, what you got coming up on your podcast, man?
Hey, Too Hard Too Fast podcast. Not sure when this is coming out, but dude, a lot of live recordings going on. Anything can happen. Wild stuff.
Yeah, make sure y'all check out that Too Hard Too Fast podcast that George keeps saying. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's going to end it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for checking us out. Audio listeners, go check out us on YouTube, because there's kind of some visual stuff that you won't hear on or that you won't get to see on audio. So check it out. For the Rowdy Texan abroad, Mr. Lathan Hall down here in the bottom, Mr. Too Hard Too Fast himself, the Dog Dad. Thank you very much for listening. Y'all have a good night.